I want you to visualize your morning routine for a second.
Okay.
The alarm goes off, maybe you hit snooze once or twice, you stumble out of bed, you have the coffee, and then you're standing in front of the closet.
Right.
And usually that moment is defined by two very practical questions, right?
Mm.
What is clean? And does this look okay?
Yeah, it feels like a purely aesthetic choice, or maybe, a logistical one.
Exactly. Functional. Is it raining? Is this appropriate for that meeting later?
It's mundane.
But what if I told you that while you're standing there, half awake, deciding between, I don't know, the gray sweater and the navy blazer, you aren't just picking an outfit.
Okay.
You are actually operating a kind of control panel for your brain structure. You're deciding how your neurons are going to fire for the rest of the day.
It sounds pretty dramatic, doesn't it? Like something out of a sci-fi novel.
It really does. But that's exactly where we're going today.
I think so, yeah.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are unpacking a fascinating article by Emilia Nantertaska-Chiba called How Clothes Change Our Brains.
Right.
And I want to be clear right off the bat. This isn't the usual dress for success fluff. This isn't about power ties or how to impress your boss.
No, not at all. We are diving into the actual neuroscience of getting dressed.
We are.
And what makes this piece so compelling, and why I was so excited to dig into it with you, is that it bridges this gap that we rarely see crossed. It takes fashion, which is so often dismissed as superficial or frivolous, and it grounds it in hard biology, specifically in neuroplasticity.
Neuroplasticity, that is the buzzword of the decade. Usually we hear it in the context of brain training games or learning a new language.
Or recovering from an injury, something like that.
Exactly. But the idea that a pair of pants could trigger neuroplasticity, that is a heavy lift for me. I'm skeptical, but I'm listening.
And being skeptical is good. It's healthy. But to get there, we have to start with this foundational concept the article introduces. It's a term called metaplasticity.
Metaplasticity. Okay, let's unpack that. It sounds like something from a chemistry lab.
It does, but it comes from the work of a cognitive archaeologist named Lambros Maliforis. And frankly, cognitive archaeologist might be the coolest job title I've ever heard.
That implies you're digging up the history of how we think. Like you're literally excavating the mind.
Precisely. Maliforis looks at what's called material culture.
Okay.
That's the academic term for the stuff we surround ourselves with. Tools, buildings, objects, artifacts.
All are things.
All are things. And the traditional view, the one most of us hold, is that humans are the masters.
We're in charge.
You're in charge. We have these big, complex brains, and we use them to create objects. We make the spear, we build the shelter, we weave the tunic, we impose our will on the material world.
Right. We are the creators. The objects are just things, passive matter waiting for us.
That's the old view. But Maliforis and Nantertaska-Chiba in this article argue for a feedback loop.
A feedback loop.
They argue that we create the objects, yes, but then those objects turn around and shape us. They actively co-create our thoughts, our cognitive processes, and even how we experience reality.
So it's a two-way street.
Exactly. I mean, think about a smartphone. Humans created it.
Sure.
But now that it exists, it has fundamentally changed how our brains process information. It's changed how we socialize, how we navigate, even our attention spans. That object has reshaped the human mind.
That's a perfect analogy. I literally cannot remember my best friend's phone number because my external brain, my phone, holds it for me.
Yes.
So my internal brain rewired itself to stop caring about that data.
Exactly. Now, take that logic, that our tools reshape our cognition, and apply it to the object that is physically closest to you. The object that is actually touching, 90% of your skin? All day, every day.
Clothing.
Clothing. It's the layer of material culture that sits right on the boundary of the self. If a phone can change your brain from your pocket, imagine what a layer of fabric does when it's wrapping your entire body. The article argues that clothing is not neutral. It's an active participant in our psychological development.
So it's not just coverage. It's not just keeping us warm. It's an interface.
It's a tool. And like any tool, it hacks your operating system.
Okay, I love the idea of my wardrobe being a toolkit for hacking my own brain. But let's get into the gears of this. How does it actually work?
Right.
Because the article breaks this down into three very specific sensory categories: texture, cut, and color. And I want to go deep on each of these, so let's start with texture.
Texture is where it all begins because it involves the skin. And we often forget that the skin is our largest sensory organ.
It's just this massive data collection surface.
It is. And it's constantly sending data to the brain, whether we're consciously paying attention to it or not.
Right. Like, I might stop noticing that my shirt is scratchy after 10 minutes, but my brain hasn't stopped receiving the signal?
Exactly. The signal is continuous. The article uses the comparison of linen versus wool to illustrate this. Think about the difference in tactile input there.
Oh, world of difference.
Linen is smooth, it's cool, breathable.
And wool, especially a rough wool, is heavy, abrasive, warm. One feels like a breeze, the other feels like a scratchy trap, depending on the wool.
Now that data, smooth or rough, light or heavy, travels from your skin to a specific part of the brain called the somatosensory cortex.
The somatosensory cortex. Okay, let's define that clearly so we aren't just throwing jargon around.
Think of it as the brain's processing center for bodily sensations. It creates a map of your body. It tells you what is happening on the surface of you.
Got it.
What Nadratauskas argues is that when you change the texture of your clothes, you are forcing that cortex to draw a new map.
So if I wear a silk shirt, I am literally creating a different sensory map in my brain than if I wear, I don't know, a burlap sack.
Yeah. Yes. You're creating new pathways of self-perception. If the input is soft and flowing, the somatosensory cortex processes safety, ease, fluidity.
So the brain is interpreting that tactile signal as a state of being.
The fabric is teaching your brain how to feel you.
That's profound. It explains that feeling when you get home from a long day in a stiff suit or tight jeans and you change into sweatpants. It's not just physical relief.
No, it's a mental gear shift.
Like my brain literally powers down.
That is the somatosensory cortex responding to new data. The input changed from constriction to softness. So the brain's map of your body shifts from alert to rest. You're manually toggling a switch in your brain using fabric.
So wearing pajamas to work, even if it's Zoom work, might actually be hindering my cognitive sharpness.
The science would suggest yes.
Because my skin is telling my brain it's nap time.
You're sending conflicting signals.
Right.
You're trying to think sharply, but your somatosensory cortex is mapping sleep mode.
Okay, so that's texture. That's the skin. But the article moves on to something I think affects us even more noticeably. The cut. The silhouette.
And this is where we move from sensation to movement. The neuroscience term here is proprioception.
Proprioception, that's our internal GPS, right? Our sense of where our body is in space.
Correct. If you close your eyes and touch your nose, you can do it without looking. That's proprioception.
Yeah.
Now, the cut of your clothes interferes with that GPS.
The example the article gives is the difference between a fitted blazer and a loose, oversized jacket. And I think everyone listening has felt this.
Absolutely. Think about the mechanics of a fitted blazer. What happens physically when you put one on?
Well, the fabric usually has no stretch. It's structured. It hits your shoulders in a specific way. You can't really slouch without the jacket fighting you.
Exactly.
So you sit up straighter. You hold your neck differently.
The tool, the blazer, is restricting certain movements and encouraging others. It forces you to organize your body in a specific way, and your brain notices this constraint immediately.
So the brain registers. Shoulders back, chin up, restricted range of motion.
And it interprets that data. It says, okay, we're holding ourselves in a posture of authority. We're alert. We are ready. The article says this creates new movement patterns in the nervous system.
This is the real aha moment for me with the whole dress for success cliche. We always thought it was about how other people see us.
Wear a suit so they respect you.
But what you're saying is even if I was alone in a room, wearing that suit forces my nervous system into a state of alertness.
That's it. You're wearing a kind of soft exoskeleton. You aren't just acting professional. Your biological machinery is operating in a different mode because the clothing requires it.
And like that power pose idea, stand like Wonder Woman to feel confident.
Yeah.
But you don't have to remember to do it.
The clothes enforce the pose. And because the mind and body are linked, the posture creates the mindset.
And conversely, if I'm in that oversized loose jacket,
the body is allowed to slump, the movements are wider, looser, the proprioceptive feedback signals relaxation, maybe casualness.
Or even hiding.
Possibly. The brain just adopts a different way of being because the physical boundaries are different.
So we have texture mapping our sensation via the somatosensory cortex and cut mapping our posture via proprioception. But then we get to the third pillar. Color.
Color?
This is the one where I feel like people get a little mystical.
Color is fascinating because it connects directly to emotion. And you're right. People talk about it in a very abstract way. Blue is calming. Red is angry.
It sounds like a horoscope.
It can. But the neuroscience actually backs this up.
How? What's the mechanism? Because I can see how texture touches the skin, but color is just It's just light bouncing off fabric.
It's visual, yes, but the visual cortex is hardwired to the limbic system.
The limbic system, that's the emotional control center.
Right. It handles emotional processing, memory, arousal. It's the ancient primal part of the brain.
Okay.
And the article highlights the contrast between safe colors, your beiges, your grays, the corporate camouflage, versus vibrant colors like crimson or cobalt blue.
I have a friend who calls beige the color of non-existence.
And neurologically, they might not be wrong. When you wear neutral colors, the visual input is low stimulation. It's quiet data.
Okay.
But when you look down and see bright crimson on your own body or catch your reflection in a cobalt blue sweater, you are sending a high-intensity signal straight to the limbic system.
So it's a chemical trigger.
Essentially. The article argues that these vibrant colors awaken different emotional pathways. It's not just that you think you look nice. The specific wavelengths of light trigger a release of neurochemistry that shifts your mood.
So if I wake up feeling sluggish or invisible or just gray, and I force myself to put on a bright yellow shirt...
You are interrupting the pattern. You're feeding your brain a conflicting signal. Your internal state says sluggish, but your visual input says energy and brightness.
And the brain has to reconcile that.
And often it reconciles it by shifting the mood to match the visual input. You're sort of biohacking your own mood.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate here because I've done this. I've bought the cool leather jacket or the bright red dress. I put it on, look in the mirror, and I feel like a rock star for about 20 minutes.
And
then life happens. I get an annoying email. I spill coffee. I just get used to it. The magic wears off. So is this just a placebo? Is it a fleeting sensation, or is this actual lasting brain change?
That is the critical question. Is this a state or a trait? And the article is very clear on this. A single act doesn't rewire the brain permanently.
Okay, so one day of dressing up doesn't fix a lifetime of insecurity.
No. But this is where the concept of procedural memory comes in.
Procedural memory, that's usually for skills, right? Like riding a bike or typing?
Exactly. It's the muscle memory of the brain. Things you do without conscious thought because the neural pathway is so well traveled. The author argues that the act of dressing and the feelings associated with it is a form of procedural learning.
So it's not about doing it once, it's about doing it every morning for a year.
Yes. If you consciously choose textures that make you feel safe, and cuts that make you feel confident, and colors that stimulate joy, and you do that every day, you're consolidating those patterns.
You're drilling that state of being into your deep-seated memory.
You are.
That's incredible. So eventually, I don't need the blazer to feel confident. The blazer taught my brain how to be confident, and now that pathway is just wired in.
That's the goal. The clothing is the training wheels for the brain state. Eventually, it can become your default setting. The author even mentions that this builds emotional resilience.
Resilience? In what sense?
Well, think about it. If you have established strong neural pathways for feeling grounded, maybe because you've spent years prioritizing clothes that make you feel physically secure, you have a baseline of safety to return to when things go wrong.
So when the stressful email comes in, my brain has a stronger foundation to stand on.
Exactly. You aren't starting from zero. You are supported by the physical reality you've built. Even small changes, like a specific pair of shoes that makes you walk solidly, can support these pathways.
This really reframes the entire concept of fashion. I think a lot of us feel guilty about caring about clothes. It feels vain, you know?
Or a waste of time.
Yeah. We think we should be focused on higher things. But this turns it into a discipline, like meditation or going to the gym.
That is the perfect comparison. You go to the gym to train your muscles. You meditate to train your focus. You get dressed to train your neuroplasticity.
The article actually calls fashion a tool for self-transformation.
It does. And in a world that demands so much emotional flexibility from us, where we have to switch roles constantly, handle stress, be creative, understanding this tool is priceless.
There's a quote from the article I wrote down because it really stuck with me. Each time you choose what to wear, you are not just dressing your body, you are shaping a new version of your mind.
It's a powerful statement. It tells us that we have agency. We aren't just stuck with the brains we woke up with. We can nudge them and shape them, one shirt at a time.
It really makes you realize how much power we leave in the closet. If we just grab the first clean thing we see, we're missing an opportunity to decide who we want to be that day.
And not just socially, but how we want to process the world biologically. You're choosing your lens.
So let's bring this down to earth for everyone listening. What does this mean for tomorrow morning at 7 a.m.?
I think it means we need to approach our wardrobes with intention. The takeaway is that you have the power to influence your own brain structure. So don't just default to the path of least resistance.
Don't just grab the gray hoodie because it's on the chair.
Right. Try an experiment. Tomorrow, pick one item that's different from your usual routine. Let's say you always wear soft knits. Try something structured. Or if you always wear black, put on something bright blue.
And then just see what happens.
Observe. Treat it like data collection. Does your walk change? Does your mood change? Do you react to stress differently? You're testing the inputs of your own system.
I love that. It turns getting dressed into a low-stakes experiment with potentially high-stakes rewards.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it puts the fun back into it. It's a tool, not a chore.
Before we wrap up, though, this whole conversation has sparked a thought in my head, a bit of a counterpoint.
Go on.
We've been talking about how changing your clothes stimulates the brain, new textures, new colors, new pathways. But I'm thinking about the opposite. I'm thinking about the uniform.
Ah, the Steve Jobs approach.
Exactly, or Mark Zuckerberg. The logic has always been to avoid decision fatigue, right? You wear the same black turtleneck every day so you don't have to think about it. It saves brain power.
It is efficient. That is undeniable.
But based on what we've learned today, if clothes shape our brains and novelty builds new pathways, what happens to our minds when we wear the exact same uniform for 10 years?
That is a fascinating provocation.
Right.
And I think the neuroscience we discussed today casts a bit of a shadow on that uniform strategy.
Are we limiting our own neuroplasticity by refusing to change our style? Does a static wardrobe lead to a static mind?
It's entirely possible. If neuroplasticity thrives on new sensory input, then a uniform might be great for productivity, but it might be starving the somatosensory cortex of the variety it needs to stay flexible.
So you might be trading growth for efficiency.
You might be. The brain craves novelty to stay sharp. If the tactile and visual input is identical every single day, you aren't challenging the system.
You're letting those sensory maps calcify.
You become very good at being that one version of yourself, but maybe you lose the ability to easily shift into other modes.
That is a haunting thought. Something to think about the next time you consider buying 5 of the exact same t-shirt, because it's easy.
Indeed. Variety might be the spice of life, but it also might just be the fuel for your brain.
Well, on that note, I think I'm going to go home and see what textures I've been neglecting.
Okay.
Thank you for walking us through this. It was a true deep dive.
My pleasure. It's always good to look beneath the surface.
And to you, listening, thanks for being here. Next time you open your closet, remember you aren't just picking an outfit, you're picking a brain state. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.